This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Good evening, Philippines, and good day, world. I'm Ruth Hamilton. It's Wednesday, the 26th of July, 2023, and you're watching Newsline World. We're here to bring you the top stories we've gathered from all over the globe. First, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. meets the King of Malaysia and its Prime Minister to strengthen bilateral ties. Our SMNI correspondent Hannah Jane Sancho will give us more details. Greece continues to battle to contain wildfires that has been raging for days. Thailand's post-elections is still in a deadlock after a parliamentary vote to select the next prime minister got cancelled for the third time. The World Health Organization confirmed the first case of the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, or MERS-CoV, in UAE. And Filipinas made history after securing victory over New Zealand in the 2023 FIFA World Cup. This and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World. First in our news, fears surrounding Fukushima wastewater discharge still loom, with South Korea's seafood imports from Japan plummeting for the third consecutive month. Salayon reports.
Following the approval of the discharge of Fukushima's nuclear wastewater into the sea, South Korea's seafood imports from Japan plunged by 34.7% in June year-on-year. This marks the third month in a row of decline since the discharge of the Fukushima's nuclear plant's wastewater into the sea received approval. According to the latest data from the Korea Customs Service on July 17, the total import volume of fish and shellfish in June from Japan went down by 21.7%. The fall in import figures came as the government of South Korea and the public continued to raise their concerns over Japan's plan to discharge the wastewater into the Pacific Ocean, an event that is expected to take place later this summer. The wastewater release is expected to be spread out over the next 3 decades. Data released by the South Korean Customs Service on Thursday also said that imports of tuna and salmon have dropped by more than 60% and more than 80% respectively, compared with the same period in 2022. And last Friday, over 1,000 fishermen in South Korea's Gangneung County, Jeolla Province, protested to voice their opposition against Japan's plan to dump wastewater. They were seen holding placards with slogans and banners criticizing Japan's plan. Jeolla Province is a major producer of octopus and seaweed in the country, and many locals fear that their livelihoods are already under threat even before the polluted water is released. It can be remembered that since 2013, South Korea has banned all seafood imports from 8 Japanese prefectures located near Fukushima, and this is due to radiation level related concerns. Seoul is Bogosala Yuniminida, SMNI News, South Korea.
A Japanese astronaut is part of NASA's next space mission on the International Space Station, composed of 4 crew members. Let's hear more from Natsumi Kojima live in Japan. Natsumi?
Yes, Ruth, Japanese astronaut Satoshi Furukawa will be joining NASA's next space mission, spending about 6 months in the International Space Station, where they are scheduled to board a spaceship called Crew Dragon. The Crew Dragon is scheduled to lift off on August 17 at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Furukawa will be joining a team of 4 members from different space agencies from different parts of the world. Satoshi will be the mission specialist together with Russia's Roscosmos, Konstantin Borisov. The team commander is an American astronaut, Jasmine Mokbeli, and their Danish pilot from the European Space Agency, Andreas Mogensen. Furukawa is a graduate of Doctor of Medicine from the University of Tokyo, and in 2000 received a Doctor of Philosophy in Medical Science, also from the University of Tokyo. On February 1999, he was selected as one of the 3 Japanese astronauts candidates to work on the ISS by the National Space Development Agency of Japan, or NASA, together with Akihiko Hoshide and Naoko Yamazaki. He then trained 4 years and eventually became a certified astronaut on January 2001 and a qualified mission specialist with NASA on February 2006. Furukawa said that he will conduct experiments on how staying in space affects the human body, adding that his tests will prepare people for future expeditions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. This mission will be Furukawa's second time in International Space Station after being assigned there as a flight engineer in 2011, spending 165 days on a mission called Expedition 28 and 29. Back to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Natsumi, for your live report. Meanwhile, the president of Belarus told his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, that the members of the paramilitary group Wagner wanted to cross the border to visit Poland and settle a score. This comes amid the rising tensions between the three countries as the conflict in Ukraine winds on. Carlo de la Peña for the rest of the details.
As part of the deal that ended the short-term mutiny, Wagner members were offered a chance to either retire, join the Russian military, or go to Belarus together with their boss Yevgeny Prigozhin. Those who remained on Prigozhin's side are currently in Belarus to help train Minsk's army.
Приветствую, парни! Рады вас всех приветствовать! Приездом на белорусскую землю! Мы достойно воевали! Вы сделали для России очень много! Сейчас то, что происходит на фронте, это позор, в котором нам не нужно участвовать. И дождаться того момента, когда мы сможем проявить себя по полной программе. Поэтому принято решение, что мы будем находиться здесь, в Беларуси, какое-то время. За это время мы сделаем, и я в этом уверен, белорусскую армию второй армией в мире. А если нужно, то вступимся за них, в случае, если это потребуется. Я всех хочу попросить максимально обратить внимание на то, что белорусы встретили нас не только как героев.
Meanwhile, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko on Sunday told Russian President Vladimir Putin that Wagner wants to reach the Polish capital of Warsaw and the city of Rzeszów, which they believe was a hub for providing Ukrainian forces with military hardware during the fighting for Artyomovsk, also known as Bakhmut. Lukashenko told Putin, and quote, "They know where the military hardware came from during the fighting in Artyomovsk, so they have this internal feeling that Rzeszów is trouble." End of quote. He also noted that the paramilitary knew what is going on around the Union state of Russia and Belarus, so he could not like to have them relocated somewhere away from the central Belarus, particularly given that they are in a bad mood. Lukashenko also gave Putin a map that depicts the movement of Polish troops to the borders of the Union state of Russia and Belarus.
О переброске вооруженных сил Польши к границам союзного государства, о чем вы говорили. Мы видим, готовится почва. Допустим, одна из бригад место свое нашла в 40 километрах от Бреста. Стояли километров 500, перебросили на 40 километров. Карту я покажу, мы это все видим. И чуть больше 100 километров от Гродно. Вторая бригада перебрасывает.
It can be remembered that in early July, General Command of the Polish Armed Forces announced the transfer 1,000 servicemen and nearly 200 units of equipment from their 12th and 17th Mechanized Brigades to the eastern part of Poland. And on Sunday, Polish Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak said that a new sapper battalion will be formed in the northeastern Poland by the end of 2023. The defense minister said that this unit will be created from scratch, is expected to bolster Polish defenses in the Suwalki Gap, a region separating the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad from Belarus. Meanwhile, the United States said that it will defend Poland in case of any attack.
I will say it is another in a series of irresponsible comments by Lukashenko, and the only thing I will reiterate, as I said about another matter earlier in this briefing, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory.
While NATO has the Article 5, which states that an attack on one of NATO member countries is considered an attack on all of them, Russia and Belarus have a defense pact. And aside from Wagner forces currently in Belarus, there are also Russian troops stationed in the said country. Russia also deployed their nuclear warheads to Belarus in June amid ongoing tensions with NATO over the conflict in Ukraine. Putin has already declared that any attack on Belarus is considered as an attack against Russia. Reporting, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized the European Union countries over grain exports, saying that keeping the ban on UN European at all. Let's hear more from Jane Conita.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky slammed Eastern European nations that intended to preserve the current ban on grain imports from Ukraine. For Zelensky, such moves are violating the values of the European Union. To recall, the ban on grain imports was imposed by the European Commission in May under the pressure from nations including Bulgaria, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. These countries were reportedly seeking to protect their local farmers from Ukrainian competition. However, the Ukrainian president said that Brussels should let the restriction expire on September 15.
Абсолютно неприпустимо і відверто не європейське будь-яке продовження обмежень. Європа має інституційну спроможність діяти раціональніше, ніж закривати той чи інший кордон для того чи іншого товару. Ми дуже активно працюємо з усіма, щоб знайти таке рішення, яке відповідатиме духу нашої Європи.
It can be remembered that the EU first lifted tariffs and quotas for Ukrainian exports to support the country amid its conflict with Russia. However, the prices went tumbling because of the cheaper products that flooded the common market of the European Union. Eastern European farmers also reeled from the effect, prompting them to protest. This event caused Bulgaria, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia to impose unilateral restrictions before Brussels eventually agreed to their demands for a ban. Furthermore, the move to keep the restrictions beyond the deadline was also fueled by the collapse of the Black Sea grain deal after Russia refused to extend it. Russia also claimed that the economic sanctions on their food and fertilizer exports were not lifted in contrast to what the United Nations had promised them. Reporting, this has been Jane Conita, SMNI News.
Greece battled to contain wildfires on the island of Rhodes for the 7th day as hundreds of tourists who had been forced to evacuate in previous days were expected to fly back to their countries. But for locals that live and work in the island and lost everything, they are now channeling their anger towards the authorities for not preventing this disaster. Evangelos Sipsas has the story.
As the fire continues to burn on the island's mountains, closer to the sea, locals start to assess the damage. After losing his house, Dimitris came to check on his business, only to find out that the only thing left is a pile of plates and lemons. Where he once used to cook and bring joy to tourists and locals, now a pile of debris.
34 years. That's how many years this place was here, 34. And in a few minutes, all gone. Everything turned to ashes.
The fire that started over a week ago on the picturesque island of Rhodes spread quickly, fanned by high winds and high temperatures. Over 500 firefighters backed by air support have been drawn into the battle, a battle that some say could have been prevented.
This is my tavern. It is completely burned. But it's not the weather's fault, it's human error by local authorities, the municipality and the governor. Both the mayor and the governor left us here to burn. We had no water, no electricity for 5 days and no heavy machinery to open fire zones, something they promised months ago, but nothing.
Anywhere you turn your head, burned trees, burned vehicles, and burned houses. The livelihood of thousands taken away by the flames in just a matter of hours. While the fire continues to burn, the only thing that reminds that this area once had life are the few patches of green. The vice mayor says that the anger of the locals is understandable, but also says that the city is doing everything they can.
Οι πολίτες είναι θυμωμένοι, αλλά ταυτόχρονα είμαστε θυμωμένοι.
The residents are angry, and I understand, and we are also angry, but we need to keep our composure. I want to make it clear to our residents that there are many roads in our island's forests and mountains that are spread for kilometers, and it's very difficult with 4 to 5 months to clean them all and have them ready for the summer season. I have to say that we did try to do so, and I believe that we are doing a good job.
The fire on the island of Rhodes continues to burn out of control, with hundreds of water bomber planes, helicopters, and manpower from abroad drawn into the battle. While emergency services are in a race against time to put out the flames, for Dimitri, time has already stopped on that afternoon where he lost everything. Evangelos Sipsas from the island of Rhodes.
Tragic plane crash during raging wildfires in Greece claims lives of Air Force personnel as climate change impact looms large. Justina Zario reports.
In the midst of devastating wildfires sweeping through Greece, a Canadair CL-215 plane operated by the Greek Air Force crashed tragically, claiming the lives of a 34-year-old commander and his 37-year-old co-pilot. The incident occurred near the town of Choristos on the island of Evia, not far from Athens, where the wildfires have been wreaking havoc for several days. Greek TV showed the Canadair aircraft flying to low drop water on a blaze before turning sharply into a hillside and crashing, bursting into flames. Greek state broadcaster ERT said the plane crashed over Choristos town. A 3-day mourning period has been dedicated in the Greek armed forces to honor the 2 fallen pilots. The wildfires have caused extensive damage, destroying homes and forcing thousands of tourists to evacuate, especially on the island of Rhodes. With temperatures soaring due to extreme heat waves, firefighting efforts have been intensified. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis has warned about the impact of climate change, saying that, quote, "We are at war, the climate crisis is already here," end of quote. And it's not just Greece that is currently burning. In fact, large areas of the Mediterranean sweltered under intense summer heat waves. According to a study by the World Weather Attribution, without human-induced climate change, the events happening this month would have been extremely rare. Algeria is currently battling to control a fire that has so far claimed at least 34 lives. Italy also suffered not only fires but also severe storms. At least 7 people were killed in Italy after storms in the north and wildfires in Sicily. Wildfires also broke out in France, Tunisia, Portugal, Croatia, and Syria. Reporting, this has been Justina Zario, SMNI News.
The South African city of Durban, situated on the east coast, has been hugely affected by climate change. The area is accustomed to heavy rainfall in the summer months, but this has almost doubled in the last century. A few weeks ago, 7 people were killed when the city was hit by a tornado, a very rare occurrence in South Africa. Yulisa Jamela has more.
A devastating flood that ripped through the region in 2022 goes down as one of the worst in history. The floods claimed just over 450 lives. In the past few weeks, heavy rains brought on by the tornado left scores of people displaced and several injured. In this area, freak storms are becoming more frequent. Mama Zane Mazange is one of the residents who were adversely affected by the floods. Her house was destroyed.
What seemed like heavy storms came out of nowhere. The winds uprooted my roof. They destroyed my house. Look at this. How can I recover? Where will I get another home? We were just fortunate that we were not injured, but it was bad. It was really bad.
Mazange is concerned that should there be more floods, she might lose her home completely.
I might just lose everything next time. You can see that it is bad. I'm hoping that I can recover and not ever be affected again. But who knows?
The provincial government and a number of non-governmental organizations continue to respond to assist affected communities.
As a eThekwini Neighborhood Watch,
As the eThekwini Neighborhood Watch, we work with the provincial government. We all know that this will likely happen in the near future, so we continue with the contingency plans to make sure that we can do all that we can to protect these communities.
A recent study by the World Weather Attribution Initiative has linked the intensity of the floods in this region to climate change. The initiative is an academic collaboration studying extreme event attribution and extreme meteorological events such as heat waves, droughts, floods and storms. Yulisa Jamelov in Durban, South Africa.
Over a month has passed since the heavy rain and floods raged across Afghanistan, leaving dozens dead, including children. And in the aftermath, people are struggling to look for food, clean water, and shelter. Loren Santos reports.
Floods that raged across Afghanistan reportedly claimed dozens of deaths, including 42 children. The flash flood was caused by heavy seasonal rain in more than 8 provinces in Afghanistan. Moreover, 7 of Afghanistan's 8 provinces have either been partially or completely damaged, and over 606 residential houses, as well as hundreds of acres of agricultural lands. The province of Wardak in central Afghanistan had suffered the most from the heavy rainstorms and flooding over the past days.
د دغه وزارت ټیمونو د ملي دفاع وزارت د ټولګټو وزارت سرې میاشتې د ولایت مقامونو او نور حکومتي بنسټونو او مؤسسو سره په همکارۍ د لومړنیو ساعتونو کې د سیلاب ځپلو سیمو ته ځان رسولی او زیانمنو ته د رسیدنې د ژغورنې او پلټنې عملیات لومړني خدمات او بیړنیو مرستو ویش یې مدیریت کړی.
The Taliban officials said that in the past 4 months, natural disasters in Afghanistan have claimed 214 lives, left 320 people injured, killed 3,800 head of cattle, and damaged or destroyed 3,115 houses. And while relief aid is being provided, there is still a huge need for more. Meanwhile, in the Argandi district of Kabul, the floodwater severely affected more than 20 industrial factories, with losses amounting to at least $1 million.
سیلابی که آمدن آسیب خیلی زیاد برای ما رساندن. تمام ماشین‌آلات از ما از بین رفتن. ما از نهادهای ملی و بین‌المللی خواهان کمک هستیم.
23 نفر از دست دادیم. 2 نفر از همسایه ما را دست دادیم. 25 نفر.
Some Afghans have called for a permanent solution to help villagers stay safe during the monsoon that lead to flash floods that occur almost every year in Takana. Meanwhile, the United Nations, along with other international organizations and de facto government ministries, rushed to the affected areas to provide food, shelter, and first aid. Taliban authorities continue to urge international agencies to speed up humanitarian assistance for the victims. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Loren Santos, SMNI News.
Despite rare opposition to an edict, the Taliban announced Tuesday that all beauty salons in Afghanistan must now close as a 1-month deadline ends. Sigrid Castañeda has the news.
Thousands of beauty salons across Afghanistan have been permanently closed from Tuesday following an order by the Taliban authorities. The abrupt move is expected to cut off one of the few revenue streams available to women, as well as a cherished space for socializing. It is the latest in a series of policies that restrict Afghan women's legal rights. A makeup artist in Afghanistan expresses concern on how she will manage to feed her family.
No education, no university, and the schools were shut down. Everything is banned, and I'm confused over where I can go and where I can work. Where can I find a legitimate income to feed my family?
The official reasoning for the order was that extravagant sums being spent on makeovers have caused hardship for poor families, and that some salon treatment are un-Islamic, according to the country's Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. Since seizing power in August 2021, the Taliban has barred girls and women from high schools and universities, as well as from parks, fun fairs, and gyms, and has ordered them to cover up in public. This is Sigrid Castañeda reporting, SMNI News.
In the United Kingdom, schools are preparing to close their doors for the summer holidays. It's one of the busiest times of the year for the hospitality industry, but many businesses haven't been able to recruit enough staff. One suggestion is to tempt over 50s who have retired early back into the workforce. CGTN's Anwar reports.
Munir Chakawi has been running his London coffee shop for about 9 years. It was always his dream to own a small eatery, but now he can't find enough staff, mainly due to issues caused by the pandemic and by Brexit. He has to close his shop on Sundays.
I think the Brexit has a big part in this. So the Brexit was a big hit for the UK. I think a lot of the European workers, they all left the country. If I have a good team, I can open few branches, but at the moment we have a big shortage of labor. Yes, I mean the government, they have to do something to help us so we can grow and we can take the business to a different level.
Munir is not alone. Vacancies across the UK hospitality industry are now 48% higher than before the pandemic. But there could be a solution. Recent polling suggests nearly 3/4 of British pub and restaurant owners would like to attract people over the age of 50 into their workforce.
So the first step is come and get a little bit of training, come and get a little stepping stone where I feel braver because I've got a little badge where I can know how to pour the perfect pint or make a great drink or carry 3 plates. So if I can learn some of those skills online, then I'll feel braver about actually applying for a job. And if I can find that job easy and it's around my area, then ultimately it can work around my timings and my lifestyle.
The global hospitality industry was impacted by the pandemic. The UK is not the only country that is facing labour shortages in its hospitality sector. Over 50s could help fill the gap, but the problem is how to tempt them back into the workforce. A report by the UK Upper House, the House of Lords, found that around 560,000 people in Britain have become economically inactive since the pandemic began, and early retirement among the over 50s played a major role in that.
What makes jobs attractive for most people are actually wages, but a small wage increase I don't think is going to attract these people back into the workforce, certainly not to go into the hospitality sector. I certainly can't see that the government is going to step in and put any funds to the sector. I mean, the government, you know, its main aim is to control inflation. It will do anything to achieve that.
So the demand is definitely there for older workers to return to the workforce, but it will come at a price. Li Jianhua, London.
The World Health Organization confirmed the first case of the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, or MERS-CoV, in the United Arab Emirates. Jonathan Akobo reports.
Marhaba, a 28-year-old male expatriate, became the first case of MERS virus in the UAE this year. The Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, is a viral respiratory infection caused by the coronavirus known as MERS-CoV. Humans can get infected from direct or indirect contact with infected dromedary camels, which can cause severe illness in humans, resulting in high mortality. Symptoms include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. The patient had no history of travel outside the UAE, nor any history of direct or indirect contact with camels, goats, or sheep. All 108 contacts, who were all healthcare workers, were monitored for 14 days and tested negative for the virus. No vaccine or specific treatment to address the virus is currently available, although some of them are under clinical development. No further cases have been detected in the country as of date. Tajublak Almazimin Taditi at Karum Nabay Kana Jothan Kobos My News, United Arab Emirates.
Kuwait has imposed absolute ban on cryptocurrency and mining activities in part as part of a crackdown against money laundering. Melchizedek Cadiz for the details.
The Capital Markets Authority, Kuwait's primary financial regulator, announced a ban on transactions involving digital currencies like BTC and Ethereum. The ban covers the issuance, investment, and mining of digital assets by residents. Local regulators are prohibited from issuing operational licenses to firms with digital currencies as their main object clause. In terms of the ban on digital asset mining, authorities warned the public that companies are not allowed to provide any type of crypto-related services. The move was part of the country's strategy to combat money laundering and comply with the Financial Action Task Force's global recommendations for crypto assets. Authorities warned any violations of the prohibitions would result in penalties. Reporting, this has been Melchizedek Cadiz, SMNI News, Kuwait.
Iran will continue to pursue the dollarization to avert impact from sanctions, according to its central bank deputy governor Mohsen Karimi in a recent interview. Sara Santos reports.
The Asian Clearing Union, or ACU, a Tehran-based regional multilateral trade clearing institution consisting of 9 member countries, announced in May that it would launch an alternative to the heavily U.S.-influenced Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, or SWIFT system. Mohsen Karimi, deputy governor of Iran's central bank and also the vice president of ACU, noted that regional countries saw the need of an accelerated de-dollarization push in recent years.
با هدف استفاده حداکثری از پولهای ملی و به بیان دیگر کاهش وابستگی و نیاز به ارزهای بین المللی تأسیس شده و هدف اصلی اون کاهش آسیب‌هایی است که از قبل ارزهای بین المللی ممکنه متوجه اقتصادهای کشورهای عضو بشه، کشورهای منطقه بشه که خب اخیراً به دلیل محدودیت‌هایی که به وجود اومده در خصوص ارزهایی مثل دلار و یورو، خب ترغیب و انگیزه کشورها برای احیای این سازمان بیشتر شد.
As not all countries have access to the SWIFT system, ACU members agreed to customize a dedicated banking system to cover all currency clearing transaction needs between member states, according to Karimi.
در تلاش هستش که از ظرفیت این اتحادیه برای کاهش وابستگی به دلار در تعاملات دو جانبه داشته باشه. ما به این عنوان میگیم دیدالاریزیشن، دلار زدایی.
Meanwhile, the deputy governor noted that many countries are motivated in pursuing de-dollarization and avert U.S. sanctions, given that the United States has long been abusing sanctions, pursuing unilateralism and hegemonic policies which have brought many harms and negative effects to the international community.
طبق ادعای خود امریکایی‌ها الان دلار ابزاری برای تحریمگری و برای فشار آوردن به کشورهای دیگه قلمداد میشه و اظهارات صریح مقامات امریکایی این هستش. لکن کشورها روابط اقتصادی خودشون رو میخوان مستقل از یک کشور ثالث که میخواد مزاحمتی در روابط اقتصادی ایجاد بکنه شکل بدن. بنابراین انگیزه کشورها برای کاهش وابستگی به دلار و یورو و ابزارهای قابل تحریم بیشتر شده و بنابراین کشورها تمایل دارن که نقش پولهای ملی خودشون رو افزایش بدن.
This is Sarah Santos reporting, SMNI News.
The journey towards choosing Thailand's next leader is now in limbo after the parliamentary vote necessary to elect the country's next prime minister got cancelled for the third time. Anisa de Guzman for the details.
More than 2 months has passed since the general elections in Thailand has taken place, but until now, the Southeast Asian country of nearly 72 million is still waiting for their 30th prime minister. Parliament President Wan Muhammad Noor Matha postponed Thursday's plan to vote for a new prime minister. The move came after the parliament blocked PETA's nomination bid a week ago. Mr. Won made the decision after consulting with legal officials of the House of Representatives and together with his advisors. Move Forward Party won the top position in May's general election and later established alliance with 7 other parties. This coalition secured a majority by winning 312 seats in the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, Puatay, as a second choice, was expected to nominate its own candidate for the position of Prime Minister. It can be remembered that Mr. Pita said he will give way to Puatay if he failed to become Prime Minister. A meeting initiated by Puatay, one of the strongest members of the 8 coalition party, got cancelled on Tuesday, citing reasons of protesters storming the headquarters anew. The public, however, is becoming critical of Puatay's intentions and predicted the party could seek alliances outside of the coalition to pursue its own political agenda. Disha Nanisa de Guzman, Drangan Chakuntep Mahanokon, SMNI News, Pratatay, Sawadika.
A seemingly innocent chocolate mint ice drink has been entangled in the ongoing political storm in Thailand after the public marked the drink as a symbol of political betrayal. To know why, Chatmongkon Pisamay Gason will tell us more.
Thailand's famous choc mint drink, a harmless treat once adored by many, suddenly left a bad taste after it got involved in the ongoing political crisis of choosing the country's next prime minister. Betray your friend drink, a beverage to kick your friend in a boat. These are just some of the infamous nicknames associated with Thailand's well-known chocolate mint drink. But how did an innocent drink adored by many for years become a symbol of political betrayal overnight? Choc mint drink is known to be a favorite of Paetongtarn Shinawat, one of Puatay Party's strong contenders for Prime Minister, and is often seen being photographed in her Instagram stories. Puatay won the second largest number of seats in May general election and joined an 8-party coalition led by Move Forward Party, or MFP, which won the most seats after promising bold reforms to move the military from politics and amend the country's decades-old less majesty law. But with election winner and MFP leader Pitalim Jalernrat's chance of becoming Thailand's next prime minister getting blocked, supporters are getting critical of Puatay's movements, especially since the Populist Party is seeking alliance outside of the coalition. Many, however, fear that associating the chocolate mint drink with a specific political party could lead to division and further polarization. รายงานจากราชบุรีนายชัดมงคลพิเศษใหม่โกศล SMNI News ประเทศไทย สวัสดีครับ
The new major telecommunications player, Dito Telecom, reassured its subscribers that they would provide options for reactivating their SIMs and completing proper registration after the SIM registration loss deadline had lapsed. MJ Mondihar is back for another news.
The SIM registration law is now in full effect after the National Telecommunications Commission, or NTC, concluded the registration of SIM cards in the Philippines. The original deadline for SIM registration was on April 26 this year, but it was extended by 90 days and ended on July 25th. To address the concerns of their subscribers who were unable to register their SIMs, Dito Telecom's Chief Administrative Officer, Attorney Adel Tamano, told SMNI News that they would offer means for reactivating the SIMs and completing the proper registration. Tamano also urged subscribers to take advantage of the 5-day reactivation period. Currently, there are 7.62 million Dito subscribers who have already registered their SIM cards, while Smart has 50 million and Globe has 48.4 million registered SIMs. The total number of successful SIM registrations reached 105.9 million, which falls within the target range between 100 to 110 million registered SIMs by the deadline. By July 31, all unregistered SIMs will be permanently deactivated and can no longer be reactivated or registered. For Ganamabel of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
Multi-billionaire Elon Musk explained in a series of posts as to why the social media platform Twitter has been rebranded to X. Hans Marshall reports.
Twitter and its sign outside its San Francisco headquarters is being taken down as they're making space for the brand new X sign. In a post on the 24th of July, Twitter owner Elon Musk announced that X.com now led the social media platform Twitter. In a reply to another post, Musk explained the rebranding, saying Twitter was acquired by X Corp both to ensure freedom of speech and as an accelerant for X, the Everything app. This is not simply a company renaming itself, but doing the same thing. The Twitter name made sense when it was just 140-character messages going back and forth like birds tweeting. But now you can post almost anything, including several hours of video. In the months to come, we will add comprehensive communications and the ability to conduct your entire financial world. The Twitter name does not make sense in that context, so we must bid adieu to the bird. Meanwhile, Musk also retweeted some of the posts of Twitter CEO Lindo Yaccarino, wherein she said, X is the future state of unlimited interactivity centered in audio, video, messaging, payments, banking, creating a global marketplace for ideas, goods, services, and opportunities. Powered by AI, X will connect us all in ways we're just beginning to imagine. In the end, Musk expressed confidence that the rebranding would be a success, saying X will become the most valuable brand on Earth. This is Hans Marshall reporting, SMNI News.
A congressman exposed the current state inside the New Bilibid prisons and the recently reported shootout on Tuesday night, July 25th. Here are the details in MJ Mondijar's report from the Congress.
In a press conference at the House of Representatives, ACT-CIS Congressman Erwin Tulfo disclosed the information to receive from inside the New Bilibid prisons or NBP, particularly the reported shootout on Tuesday, July 25th. Tulfo said his sources within the Bilibid confirm that there was indeed a gunfight between two gangs using high-tech firearms.
Yung aking source, kita niya dalawang pangkat nagbabarilan, dito isang grupo, nagpapalitan ng putok. Maririnig ninyo na mayroong pang automatic gunfire. So ibig sabihin, mayroong matataas na kalibre ng baril, hindi na sumpak, hindi na pugakak, hindi paltik, kundi talaga mga mukhang high-tech na mga baril.
The congressman also mentioned that one person was killed in the shootout. 9 others were injured in an hour-long clash. The root cause of the violence was said to be linked to illegal drug activities. Tulfo pointed out that illegal practices inside the Bilibid have resurfaced, including drug-related issues.
He was saying na ongoing pa rin yung activities even though there's a change of leadership. Ay may ongoing po tuloy-tuloy yung kalakaran ng ikang droga, tuloy-tuloy po yung kalakaran ng mga illegal activities. Yung sinasabing binuwag na po yung kubol ay ongoing yung kubol ngayon.
Recently, conjugal visits inside Bilibid were extended to 1 week, but for Congressman Tulfo, such extensions were too much. Reports also emerged regarding inmates in the maximum security compound ordering food for delivery and using online shopping platforms to have items delivered inside the prison. In response to these revelations, Tulfo filed House Resolution number 1136 to investigate the situation inside the prison, and this includes the disturbing issue of an inmate who was found dead inside a septic tank in Bilibid. The missing inmate was identified as Michael Cataroha, who had a case of violating the anti-fencing law.
Urging the appropriate House committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the incident of inmate Cataroha, who was reported missing from the maximum security compound and then found dead inside the septic tank of NBP.
Tulfo said he had already coordinated with Justice Secretary Boying Remulla regarding such reports inside Bilibid, and that the public disclosure of their information is a result of their coordination with the Justice Secretary.
Actually, nag-respond naman si Secretary Remulla when we exposed this on my radio program last week. After 2 days, nag-order si Secretary Remulla na hanapin ito si Cataroha. So 15 yung reports sa akin, I think 17 namin in-expose. 2 days later, 19, nagbigay ng instructions Secretary Remulla na hanapin.
The most notorious criminals in the Philippines are now being held inside the New Bilibid prisons, and the lawmaker that divulged his information wants the government to take action immediately. For Ganamabul of Philippines, MJ Mondijar, SMNI News.
Various carving masters in Chengzhou City in China showcase their skills in wood, stone, porcelain, and brick carving that began thousands of years ago. This is part of Chengzhou's celebration of the second anniversary of the city's recognition as a World Heritage Site. More of this story from Jason Rubrico.
You will be fascinated by the richness and beauty of the culture and history of Chengzhou City in Fujian Province, China, as one of the most important port cities on the Maritime Silk Road. It is undeniable that the UNESCO World Heritage Committee recognized Chengzhou as a World Heritage Site. And by nightfall, Chengzhou brings a unique cultural experience to local and foreign tourists. July 25, 2021, nang kinilala ng UNESCO World Heritage Committee ang Chengzhou bilang isang World Heritage Site. At ngayong ikalawang anibersaryo, binuksan ang lugar na ito, tampok ang iba't ibang produkto ng Song at Yuan Dynasty. Here, the carving masters show off their skills in carving wood, stone, porcelain, and brick.
All kind of like Chengzhou masters, they dedicated a long time to make this skilled craftsmanship.
And this craft
can wish it date back to like Song and Yuan dynasty, like thousands of years, like passed down from generation to generation.
Chengzhou was one of the largest and busiest ports in the world during the Song and Yuan dynasties. The city became an important exchange hub for different civilizations, religions, and products. Nandito tayo ngayon sa labas ng Confucius Temple dito sa Chengzhou, Fujian Province sa China. At timing ang pagpunta natin dito dahil magbubukas ang kanilang night market. Tara! Their night market still features a variety of local Chengzhou products. Traditional flower headdresses worn by women of Shunpu village, wood carvings, lanterns, and various souvenirs can be purchased. You can also enjoy the rich Minyan culture in Chengzhou every night, from singing and playing instruments to traditional puppet shows. Meanwhile, Chengzhou boasts a very low crime rate in the city. Because of this, tourists can enjoy walking around the city every night more safely.
It's very safe here. We have like even you are out like at 3 a.m. in the morning, so it's okay, safe to go everywhere, the whole Chengzhou.
Reporting from Chengzhou City, Fujian Province, China, for God and my beloved Philippines, I am Jason Rubrico, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and Malaysian King Al Sultan Abdullah and Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim successfully held talks on Wednesday. Details of this report from Hannah Jean Sancho.
President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr.'s talks with the heads of state and government of Malaysia centered on the talks about the economy's recovery from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as strengthening of the halal food industry and Islamic banking. President Marcos received the arrival honors held at the parade ground of Istana Negara, which was followed by a 21-gun salute. Malaysian King Al Sultan Abdullah and Queen Aziza first welcomed President Marcos and First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, as well as the Philippine delegation. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and his wife, Dr. Wan Aziza, also warmly welcomed the President. President Marcos's delegation include House Speaker Martin Romualdez, Senators J.V. Ejercito and Mark Villar, Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo, Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno, Trade Secretary Alfredo Pascual, Communications Secretary Chela Garafil, TESA Director General Suharto Mangundadatu, Minda Chairperson Mabela Costa, Social Secretary Bianca Subel, Ilocos 1st District Representative Sandro Marcos, Barm Prime Minister Ahud Ibrahim, Sultan Kudarat Governor Datu Pax Ali Mangundadatu, and Tawi-Tawi Governor Ismael Sali.
Mahigit 6 na dekada na ang diplomatic relations ng Pilipinas at Malaysia. Kaya naman hindi nakapagtataka na isa ang bansang Malaysia sa pinuntahan ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. At dito sa Istana Negara, dito ginanap ang state welcome at banquet para kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos sa pinangunahan mismo ng ika-16 na hari ng Malaysia. In an appreciation for President Marcos's visit, a ceremonial tree planting was held at the National Palace, wherein the President planted a melanjao tree, a type of evergreen plant with the scientific name Ginetum ginemum. King Al Sultan Abdullah for his part hoped for deeper cooperation between the Philippines and Malaysia, particularly in the agricultural sector as well as the digital economy and halal food industry. President Marcos meanwhile sees Malaysia as a good partner, especially amid the continuous recovery of both countries following the severe impact brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. Nandito tayo ngayon sa Putrajaya, Malaysia at nasa labas ako ngayon ng Prime Minister's Office kung saan ginanap ang pagpupulong sa pagitan ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos at Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. Meanwhile, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim lauded President Marcos as his personal friend. According to Anwar, Malaysia is not commonly visited by a head of state. President Marcos and Prime Minister Anwar also held talks on how to strengthen the economy in this post-pandemic era, as well as strengthening of the halal industry as both the Philippines and Malaysia aim to enter the Middle Eastern market. Both leaders also talk about the ongoing conflict in Myanmar.
We mentioned also the potential for halal industry in both countries. We will certainly do our utmost in terms of the issue of certification, but I think jointly we should undertake some effective measures to ensure that the halal industry can penetrate more effectively into the Middle Eastern market in particular.
President Marcos also shared that he and the Malaysian Prime Minister both agreed to resume the Joint Commission meeting in October this year. The Philippine President said that the said meeting would enable both countries to have an in-depth discussion on transnational crime, agriculture, halal industry, Islamic banking, education, tourism and culture, sports, and digital economy.
We do this so that our government agencies will have an avenue to discuss priority cooperation in detail, most especially in the areas of transnational crimes, agriculture, halal industry, Islamic banking, education, tourism, and culture, sports, and the digital economy. We continue to work on the corresponding MOUs in these fields and will have them signed in the near future.
President Marcos also added that the cooperation of the Philippines and Malaysia will strengthen the halal industry, Islamic banking, and food security, particularly in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region or BARM. And this will be made possible through Malaysia's expertise to train Filipinos in the said industries.
Building on our bilateral relations, our governments commit to closely coordinate efforts to build capacity in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in southern Philippines in Muslim Mindanao, especially on sectors such as the halal industry, Islamic banking, and food security. Malaysia has warmly offered their expertise to train Philippine personnel and officials to strengthen our capabilities in these increasingly important sectors.
Thursday marks the end of the 3-day state visit of President Marcos here in Malaysia. And before returning to the Philippines, he is set to talk with the top leaders of the business industry here in Malaysia. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
For our sports news, the Philippine women's softball team has moved forward to the playoffs of the WBSC Softball World Cup. Meanwhile, the Creamline Cool Smashers advanced to the finals of the 2023 PVL Invitational Conference. Hans Marshall is back for our sports news.
The Philippine women's softball team was ecstatic after securing the last spot in the playoff round of Group C in the WBSC Softball Women's World Cup. The Blue Girls defeated the host country Italy with a score of 6-5. It was a closely fought match with both teams tied at 5 before the national women's team emerged victorious. Nicole Hammond was named Player of the Day for her outstanding performance, contributing 3 runs scored, 3 at-bats, 3 hits, 2 runs batted in, and 1 base on balls. The Philippines will be joining Canada, Japan, and Italy in Group C of the playoffs. The Blue Girls are set to play against Italy again in the playoffs on the 26th of July. In other news, the Creamline Cool Smashers secured their spot in the finals of the 2023 PVL Invitational Conference. The team achieved a straight-set victory over Vietnam's Kin Bac Bac Ninh with scores of 25-23, 25-23, and 25-17. Tots Carlos led Creamline with 16 points, while Eliza Valdez and Gemma Galanza contributed 11 and 10 points respectively. Gia de Guzman also played a crucial role in the team's victory with 17 excellent sets. The Cool Smashers will face Japan's Kurashiki Ablaze in their last game of the semi-finals. Currently, Creamline remains unbeaten in the ongoing league with a standing of 4-0. Meanwhile, LeBron James' son Bronny is now in a stable condition. According to reports, he experienced a cardiac arrest during a practice session at the University of Southern California on Monday. LeBron expressed gratitude to the officials at USC for their swift response to the incident involving his son. In the end, the James family asked for respect and privacy. Further updates on Bronny's condition is expected to be released soon. This is Hans Marshall reporting, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. congratulated the Philippine women's football team for their win against New Zealand. Here are the details in MJ Mondejar's report.
Filipinos are all out cheering for Team Filipinas in the ongoing FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. And when the Pinay squad emerged victorious against New Zealand with a score of 1-0, our countrymen erupted in cheers. They are just a few of the millions of Filipinos who celebrated the historic match of the Philippine squad. According to PBA Part List Representative Mix Nograles, a sports and youth representative in Congress, this victory is a significant milestone, especially as it marks the first ever goal made by the Philippine team in the tournament.
Very proud ako because the assist, yung nag-assist si Sarah, nag-assist dun sa naka-goal na si Serena, taga Davao. Actually, masaya siya. So, diba, nataas na naman natin ang bali na pagkadabawan niyo.
As a former athlete, Nograles emphasized that the historic performance of the Filipinas is a great achievement that uplifts Filipino women on the world stage.
Mas nakaka-proud to see that the women, kasi usually sa soccer, sa football, lalaki, diba? Very dominant. And now the women are really showing that they are capable and they can really showcase the talents of the Filipino women.
The Malacanang also lauded the success of the Philippines in the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. In an official post on Twitter, President Bongbong Marcos sent warm congratulations to the Philippine women's football team. However, according to Nograles, the president did not mention in his recent State of the Nation address the administration's plans for sports development. Despite that, Filipino athletes continue to reap success in various sports disciplines, including weightlifting superstar Hidalyn Diaz and pole vaulting superstar EJ Obiena. Nonetheless, Nograles said she is confident that the president will not neglect the nation's athletes.
Well, I would have wanted to hear kung ano yung pwede natin magawa this second regular session sa ating mga athletes if there's going to be additional budget and all. I'm sure naman it's also part of the priorities of the president.
In the upcoming budget season, Nograles expects the leadership of the House of Representatives to work together in advocating for the necessary funds for the athletes. For Government of Philippines, MJ Mondejar, SMNI News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. For today's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit SMNInewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Ruth Hamilton. Thank you for watching Newsline World, and thank you to our beloved pastor, Pastor Apollo C. Kibloy, for the opportunity to be a part of this program. May you continue to listen on SMNI as it delivers nothing but fair, truthful, and balanced news, because SMNI is your source